What's up, guys? Not a good start to the NFL week last night. New Orleans Saints. It was a good spot for them, bad spot for Jacksonville. The Saints, they won like every statistical category in that game, really. They were like plus 70 yards, and that's even after Jacksonville had that final game-winning drive. They were plus 13 in time of possession, plus 7 in first downs. Jacksonville had fewer than 20 first downs. I think New Orleans won the turnover battle too, and they still lose the game. I just don't know how that happens. It's just ridiculous. And New Orleans had to, of course, tease me by getting back in the game as they were losing like all game. They came all the way back, tied it with that back-to-back touchdowns and a 2-point conversion, and still lose the game. Not what you want to see. Not a good night. My baseball play yesterday pushed, and then the Diamondbacks won on a walk-off in the ninth, but it was 0-0 pretty unexpectedly into the sixth inning at least. So that play pushed, even though seemingly the value was there on Arizona because they were tied at least through the fifth, but did not have the actual lead. Not a good day, really. 0-1-1, real great. I'm on a slide right now. This needs to end. Looking at tonight's card, I don't know who does the scheduling for the NCAA college football. This is awful. There's one game on the board tonight, and it's SMU at Temple. Who the hell is going to watch this game? I'm certainly not. Nobody's going to watch this game. This is the American Athletic Conference again? I don't even know what this is. Temple has one win on the season, and it's against some FCS team, Norfolk State, I think. Temple has no FBS wins. They basically have no wins on the season. SMU, one of the top teams in this conference. SMU's gone up from minus 18 to minus 21 on the road. It looks like they have 58% of the cash, although only 50% of the tickets. SMU clearly the way better team here. It looks like there has been some money on them driving that number up. I don't want anything to do with Temple. Who would? Nobody wants anything to do with Temple. I don't know why you would want to lay 21 points on the road either, though, and the total has actually gone down from 57.5 to 54.5, so it means those points are a little bit more valuable there. 21 is a lot to lay. Odds makers seemingly are kind of thinking that Temple is not going to score a lot in this game at all. They do suck. There's no way I want to get involved in this game whatsoever. Want nothing to do with Temple. Want nothing to do with a 3-touchdown road favorite either. No thank you. We got 2 NHL games tonight. Somewhat difficult to read these as well. Calgary at Columbus. Out of the 4 teams that are playing here, I think Columbus would be the strongest lean, and that's only really because Calgary is coming off a back-to-back, and they played a tight game at Buffalo yesterday. So they're the only one of these 4 teams that played yesterday. They've gone down, ticked down slightly from minus 140 to minus 138 on the money line as a road favorite, even though this says they have 73% of the cash, but only 50% of the tickets. So this is saying there is like a money ticket discrepancy on the side of Calgary, but the number has also gone down on Calgary. You see this on pregame's odds screen a lot, where it's kind of hard to read because the money has kind of gone in the opposite direction from where it says the cash discrepancy is. I don't know. I would only lean to Columbus here just because Calgary's on the back-to-back, 2 road games in a row. Columbus had the day off, hasn't looked good so far. So probably the only value to be had would be on Columbus there, taking them as a home underdog. And then the other game, we also have a home underdog. That's the Devils and the Islanders, who have both had multiple days off. Devils look like they have 85% of the cash, but only 62% of the tickets. But they've gone down, similar to Calgary, from minus 125 to minus 121. The Islanders are somehow actually undefeated, but 2-0. The Devils are actually the better team, even though they're 1-1. I think everybody knows this, though. I mean, the books are obviously telling you they are, so they're the road favorite, but I think everyone knows this. So I think the best way to look at this game would actually be to the under, because these teams both have had a decent amount of time off. So I think, and they're sort of like, they're like locational rivals, kind of, because they're close by to each other, the New Jersey, New York teams there. So the best play on this one, I would think, is the under. I don't think it's very strong, but it does look like the number's gone from over 6 minus 110 to under 6 minus 110. So it looks like it's trended that way slightly, even though this is saying there's 85% of the money on the over, but only 53% of the tickets on the over. I don't know if I buy that. Yeah, it's very, very slightly into the under there. And Major League Baseball, which is where I'm actually going to have an actual play, which seems a little dangerous, but we'll see. Houston, Texas is the earlier game. That's not where my play is going to be, but Houston tied up the series after they fell down 2-0 at home, and they won 2 games at Texas, even though I don't know how much you consider that to be a road game, really, when these teams are very close geographically, and Houston has a lot of fans still in that area. But Houston has now won 2 games in a row, tied the series at 2-2, and it shifts back to Texas in a tied series, and we have the same pitching matchup that we had in Game 1 again now with Justin Verlander against Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery did really well in Game 1. I think he pitched a shutout he went pretty deep into the game and gave up no runs, which is very difficult to do against Houston. Verlander had a pretty good start, too. I think the final was 2-0 Texas in that game, but Verlander came up on the wrong side of it just because he gave up anything at all, and Montgomery shut Houston out while he was in there. So this line, Texas has dropped from minus 110 to minus 108, just ticked down a little bit, but it does look like Houston has 64% of the tickets, but only 58% of the cash. The market read to me, even though it's ticked down slightly on Texas, does kind of make me lean to Texas. I don't know if that would really be called like a zigzag type of thing where, Texas win the first 2, then Houston win the first 2. Now we got Texas is actually still at home in this one, actually. What am I saying? So I think this is a 2-3-2 series structure, I guess. So I think it was Houston played the first 2 at home. Texas gets 3 at home, and then Houston gets the last 2 at home. So Texas kind of really needs to win this game because this is their last home game, so that might add some extra motivation there. Because if they go down 3-2 and they have 2 remaining games at Houston, I think you can kind of consider the series to be over. I don't think, even though Texas won the first 2 in Houston, I don't think that trend is really going to continue. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of extra edge on Texas there because of that. Verlander has done well lifetime against Texas, 241 opponent batting average, which is... it's in a lot of at-bats. That kind of extends back to when he was a bit more dominant than he is now, although he's been very good this year still. And Montgomery, his stats are a little bit worse against Houston, a 260 OBA and 104 lifetime at-bats. So kind of a wash between those 2 starters statistically against the opponents there. My slight lean would be to Texas just from the motivational aspect of it. And both teams kind of used a lot of their pen yesterday in a high-scoring game where Houston took a big lead early and then they were up 3-0 and they immediately threw the game back 3-3. Then they extended it to a 9-3 lead and finally wound up running away with a 10-3. But Urquidy and Heaney both did really poorly yesterday. Got taken out of the game quite early. The bullpens both had to be used. Both bullpens kind of used a couple of guys that came in to eat up some innings. Dunning, who's one of Texas' starters, kind of had a starter's workload yesterday. So I don't know how much you can put into any of that. Both bullpens, the bullpen situation seems like a little bit of a wash, but Houston's is a little bit better. Still, my slight lean is to Texas, just from the slight motivational aspect of it there, and I think everything else kind of being a little bit of a wash. And Texas really got destroyed yesterday, so I think the public sentiment is definitely they're not going to want to be on Texas in this one. So, and it looks like a little bit more of the money than the tickets are on Texas, and thinking that there is a little bit of value maybe on Texas as a very small home favorite in somewhat of a must-win at this point for them. So those are my feelings on that. The game I'm actually going to have a play on, this is a bizarre matchup, man. Philadelphia and Arizona. And unfortunately, it took Arizona into the late part of the game to actually wind up winning the game. I could have cashed my bet if they did it in regulation in the or not regulation in the first 5 innings, I should say. This is a weird matchup where it's Christopher Sanchez against Joe Mantiply, and Christopher Sanchez I think is definitely the better of the two pitchers. He's a younger guy. Mantiply is a guy who started his career like late. He's like in his 30s, but he's only had like a few years in the MLB. And Sanchez has only had a few years in the MLB, but he came into the MLB as a much younger guy. And this has been like his first really good season where he has a 1.05 whip, 3.44 ERA, and he's got like 90-something strikeouts and 90-something innings pitched. All of that is pretty good. And Sanchez, the Diamondbacks haven't really seen him much. They've seen him 8 times, 8 at-bats worth. They're 3 for 8 off of him, so they've hit him okay. 375 opponent batting average, but in only 8 at-bats total. That's really not a lot. So Sanchez could have a bit of an edge there because the Diamondbacks aren't really used to facing him. He has not pitched. This is going to be the first time he's pitched ever in the postseason. So there could be a little bit of jitters here, but for both of these pitchers, it's going to be, I believe, their first career postseason start, even though Mantiply has pitched in relief this year in the postseason. Sanchez hasn't pitched since September 30th. So I don't know if that's going to mean he might be like a little bit cold. His last start was actually on the 24th. And then I think they gave him like an inning of kind of tune-up in like a blowout loss very late in the season just to get him kind of ready. I don't know how much of an effect that's going to have, but he is almost certainly the much better pitcher here. He's the pitcher with the ability to go deeper into a ball game. I don't think Mantiply really has that ability. Mantiply is kind of a converted reliever, so not great for what Arizona wants to do. I would expect Mantiply not to be able to go very deep into this game. Sanchez has the ability, has the skill, and he has the ability to go deeper into games because he has been a starter like all year. So take from that what you will. They both are making their first postseason start, so they could both have a little bit of jitters. Mantiply has been not very good against Philly in his career. 14 for 31 lifetime, so they have seen him a bit more. 452 opponent batting average. That's quite bad. Be Fruitful and Mantiply, I'm not so sure that's going to be the case in this one. He's been quite bad in his career against the Phillies. He pitched once in this series already 3 days ago, and he went 1/3 of an inning and gave up 3 earned runs, which is also not good at all. He walked 2 guys, didn't strike anybody out, gave up 3 hits and walked 2 guys, so he allowed 5 base runners and only got 1 guy out. That's not a great sign. He did pitch he had some scoreless relief efforts prior to that this postseason, though, against the Brewers and the Dodgers. But it's kind of a weird scenario now where he's now coming out of the bullpen. So I don't know which is worse, really. You have Sanchez, who hasn't pitched for almost a month, although certainly he's been practicing with the team and warming up and what have you. So he hasn't pitched in like a month, basically, in an actual MLB game. Mantiply has he pitched 3 days ago, and he's been coming out of the bullpen. So both of those are kind of like disruptive in a way, I would say, where the worry about Sanchez is that he might be a little bit cold, maybe, but with Mantiply, you might think that he might be on this weird schedule now where he's pitched. He hasn't had that full like 4 or 5 days off that you would want like a starter to actually have. So he had to come in and pitch 3 days ago in that one game. So it's kind of a weird type of scheduling spot for both of them, but I trust Sanchez a lot more. I trust his ability and his numbers a lot more than Mantiply, who's a guy who's really been a reliever for pretty much the whole season here. I wouldn't expect him to go very deep into the games. I would expect Arizona to have to go to the bullpen earlier than Philly, and Arizona is coming off a very dramatic win yesterday in a game that was scoreless into the late innings. They fell behind 1-0. They tied it in the 7th, and then they won on a walk-off. Ketel Marte with a walk-off home run in the 9th, even though they did out-hit the Phillies by quite a bit, so I probably should have won that first 5-inning bet. It wound up being 9-3 hit advantage when everything was said and done with Arizona, but Arizona coming off that very dramatic win. Are they going to be able to quickly turn it around again and play immediately again? I don't know. That cut the series lead to 2-1 for the Phillies there, but that's a very dramatic win for Arizona. You might say that Kettle won. There we go. Both teams kind of used quite a few of their relievers. Kimbrel was actually in there and gave up that walk-off home run. He's the Phillies closer, and he was in there last night, so he pitched. Both of these teams kind of used some of the back end of their pen as their starters actually both did surprisingly a lot better than expected yesterday with Suarez and Fott. They both had scoreless performances yesterday into the 6th inning, which was quite good, unexpectedly from both of them because neither of them are really that great. All of that, I think, is kind of a wash. And then I think it's really the starting pitching matchup, but I also think the Phillies have the slight edge in the bullpen as well, just because both of the teams kind of used up some of the better relievers yesterday. And I think the Phillies have a better bullpen overall. And Mantiply is going to be out of the bullpen, even though I don't know how great a reliever he really is, but he's not going to be available out of the bullpen because he's starting this game. So the Phillies, I think, have quite a big edge in the starting pitching matchup because they have an actual starter pitching, and Arizona does not, even though Arizona is really going to be on the ropes if they don't win this game. So I think you're going to see like a real committee effort from Arizona here where they're going to use like whoever they need to use to try to get this game. But I think the Phillies they have too much of an edge with the starting pitching here. And I don't know, I don't want to overvalue the pitching. I laid -129 with the Phillies here. It's gone up from -115 as a road favorite, even though it looks like they are getting a bunch of the public action too. 87% of the cash, 87% of the tickets. So I don't really love being on like a public road favorite at all. But I think that I think this is kind of a mismatch here, to be honest. So everything that I just said, factor all that in. I just think Sanchez is a significantly better starter here, even though it's the first playoff start for both of them, and he hasn't pitched in a game for a lot longer than Mantiply has, but he's really a starter and Mantiply isn't, so he does have the ability to get deeper into this game. So those are my feelings on that. I'm actually laying it. It looks like it's up in the 130s now. I probably wouldn't want to lay more than like 140 on the Phillies, but there is a reason why they're a fairly decent-sized road favorite here, and it's kind of all that I said here. That and Arizona having that quick turnaround time after that extremely dramatic win, even though you've seen teams kind of get like momentum from that in a playoff series, like the Red Sox famously did that in the ALCS in 2004, my Red Sox, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. The starting pitching matchup is going to be a lot for Arizona to have to overcome here, and they're probably going to have to dip into their bullpen a lot earlier, which also doesn't bode well for them in the next game necessarily. Excuse me. I'm on the Phillies, -129. Hopefully we get some money here. That's going to do it. Peace.